Are you ready?
Hey guys, this is Rex Lawless, and you're listening to my fellow New York boys Shot of Wrestling podcast. And you can listen to Shot of Wrestling every Monday on Spotify.
Break some damn shot, boy. Is that the best that you got? We about to go live. Are you ready to rock? So take a shot, boy. Is that the best that you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot, boy. Is that the best that you got? We about to go live. Are you ready to rock? So take a shot, boy. Is that the best that you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot. Oh yeah, so take a shot. Oh, so take a shot. Oh, so take a shot.
If you're ready and willing, I'm able, and welcome to another exciting edition of Shot of Wrestling, the interviews. If you've not done so already, make sure you follow us on all forms of social media at Shot of Wrestling on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also contact us via email at inbox@shotofwrestling.com or dial it up 619-343-3005 at Shot of Wrestling's own hotline. Now we say it time and time again that wrestling brings us together, and today is no different. Today, we are joined by Chikara's Rick Rowland, the Pectoral Poseidon, and the two-time reigning, defending NYWC Heavyweight Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Rex Lawless.
Thanks for the great intro, and thank you for having me.
Dude, it's been over a year that we've been talking about having this conversation. So thank you for actually taking the time, and let's have this. Let's have it out, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'm a big wrestling podcast fan, actually, so it's just everything was hectic. I was moving over from Long Island to Philly, so now I'm more settled in, and we could have a nice little chat.
Well, we first met, let's take it way, way back, because we first met at BCW at the Elks Lodge, and I was Green Man. And if you remember, at this point, you were injured. So we were getting into the wrestling scene and getting to know all the talent and things like that. And you just kept showing up every show, injured. And I'm like, yo, this dude has so much dedication, so much passion for the business. Like, he just is here all the time where he could be home. Can you take us back to that moment and fill me in personally on what happened?
Well, I look back at those times as having a lot of fun, actually. Those BCW shows at the Elks Lodge and NYWC, which at the time we were doing ring crew for them and helping them out because BCW was just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
And NYWC has always been like a family. We've always been very close. And I would see all those guys at training and everything even more than my own family, pretty much like since I started wrestling. And I started around 2009, 2010 when I was 19. So it was going on almost like 8 years at that point that I known all those guys. But I made a point because I tore the patella tendon in my knee in a match. That was actually the second time that I did that. So the first time that I tore my knee, I kind of did the whole feel sorry for yourself and lay at home and just like cut myself off from everyone. So the second time I made like a promise to myself, like, all right, I'm not going to mope around this time. I'm going to go to every show that I can still. And I was still I heard of that Beyond Wrestling in Massachusetts, and I still would go every month to the Beyond Wrestling shows on my crutches and try to be involved as much as I could. Yeah, pretty much just for my own sanity and just to stay motivated. I would try to go to every show that I could. And plus those BCW shows that had the bar attached to it, and we'd all just have a good time anyway.
Yeah. Good old Elks Lodge, man. Yeah, but it spoke volumes. Us first getting into the independent wrestling scene to see someone so dedicated that no matter what, they were at the show supporting the program, supporting the organization, and it was nice to see.
Yeah, I tried to be more positive that second injury, and then I ended up coming back 5 months it was supposed to be like a 6 to 8 month recovery time. And the first time took me the full 8 to get cleared. But I think it was just like my attitude, and I ended up getting back in 5, and I won the Chikara tag team titles like in my first show back pretty much. So things were looking pretty good back then.
So you mentioned we are talking about one great moment, at least, the Chikara Tag Team Championships, and one not so great moment, but there's still moments in your life. They all shape the way your life is right now. Are there any other moments throughout your lifetime that you look back and like, that was a moment that made me the man I am today?
I think in around 2013, I had my first WWE tryout back when they were still in the Tampa building, in the FCW building. And I was like 2 years in at that point. Back then they used to actually call you, but it wasn't just everything's through email now.
Yeah.
But like I got an actual call with I forgot the lady's name, but whoever took care of the logistics of that stuff, of putting the tryouts together. And I just remember being like so happy. I was like, oh, this is it. I'm getting signed. I'm moving to Florida. You know? Like I was at my job at UPS. I used to unload trucks at UPS, where I got that initial email telling me that they were interested in me coming down for the tryout. And I was just like, I'm leaving this job soon. Yeah, this is my last day. Just like so happy. And yeah, so, you know, things happen, things don't work out. But that experience was crazy. Just at that age, I was like 20, maybe 23, and getting flown down there on their dime and everything. It was like my first experience ever doing anything like that, and just seeing the Tampa building and all the coaches, like with Dusty, we got to do promos with Dusty Rhodes, and Shawn Michaels came in and gave us like a big pep talk.
Wow. And
that was the tryout where like Sami Zayn, they found Sasha Banks, the Drifter, and Scott Dawson for the Revival, and it was just like a stacked class. They got Sarah Del Rey from that one. But just being there, like among those people at that age,
yeah,
and like being so young and just like kind of having your whole career ahead of you after that. I didn't get signed at the time, but after that tryout was when I realized like, oh, this is within reach. Like I got to start traveling as much as I can, making a name for myself on the indies. So after that was when I really kicked it up and got in my car, started driving to every show that I could, trying to email promoters and just get out there.
It's like you got a glimpse at what the future could be, right?
Yeah.
And it made you work harder. That's dope. I always, when we talk to people who've been fortunate enough to have a tryout, I always find it amazing how you don't fanboy out. Like you just mentioned Shawn Michaels giving you a pep talk. Like what was going on through your mind? Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I never thought that I would be that close to him before. And it was really cool because when we were doing the drills in the ring, and going back to Shawn Michaels, I was about to go off on something else, but going back to Shawn Michaels, he pretty much, like, it stuck with me what he said. He was like, for a lot of you, like, this isn't going to be your time right now. Like, that doesn't mean that it's over kind of thing. Like, just because it's a no and that you didn't get the contract this time doesn't mean that you can't come back in the future and have another opportunity. Like, just keep working. So you know, his words stuck with me. It's good to hear, definitely being a young wrestler at the time.
So now you were going to get into another story about feedback in the ring, or?
Oh, yeah, like as far as just like meeting people that you watched on TV when you were younger. When we were doing the drills, that same lady who called me for a tryout was like, it's like, wow, like you're really good at all these roles and things like. He's like, oh, you're from Long Island? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, we're going to be at the Nassau Coliseum next week. We need extra talent. Like, you want to do it? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like that was just like my head was just like, I don't like, not my ego or anything, but just like in my head, like, oh my God, like everything is falling into place type
No, absolutely.
Thing. Like I'm going to extra work and all this stuff. And that's when just like being back there in the arenas as they're taping TV is a crazy experience in itself. Just seeing everybody walk around. Like I just remember seeing Rey Mysterio, being really happy to see him because he was like my childhood favorite. He shook my hand. I was like, oh my God, Rey Mysterio. and meeting Kane and everything. Kane was a big one too because I loved him when I was a kid. And he was just really nice to the extras. There's certain guys who are just like, who've been in that position before that are just.
Who are
really
those
cool
guys who went out of the way to be cool to the extras?
I remember Sheamus was one of them.
Really?
Yeah, Sheamus like gave me a fist bump as I was leaving. He's like, "See you around, big man," or
Oh,
something
that's
like that.
awesome.
Like, yeah, and
You know, it's interesting
was
because Michael J. Putty, the host to Shot of Wrestling, actually has heat with Sheamus.
oh really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This goes back to like SummerSlam.
Uh-huh.
We were hanging out in the bar doing karaoke. Sheamus walks in, and this was around the time Ted DiBiase Jr. was around and stuff like that. And Teddy was doing karaoke with us, hanging out. And then out of nowhere, Sheamus is like, "Come on, we gotta go." And he pulls Teddy out. And Michael J. Putty steps up to Sheamus. He's like, "Hey, we're just having a good time," and like stepped up to Sheamus. So they got heat right now.
Whoa. That's man, that's a brave man right there.
He is. I hope he's listening to this episode because Sheamus is nice, huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was cool. Like I feel like a lot in wrestling, a lot of other bigger people kind of are nicer to the other big people type thing. You know, kind of like hey, you're big too.
Yeah.
I like you. You know. So it's probably a little bit of that, but I remember like CM Punk was really cool because he came from the Indies, so he
Right.
walked up to all the extras, shook all our hands.
Oh, that's cool.
And like I made sure to be in eye contact, like just very nice to us too.
What are your thoughts
Uh,
on CM Punk?
I mean, he's a great talker, great promo,
Mm-hmm.
and in ring, I was never too impressed to be honest with him.
I'll be honest.
Kinda-
He had the sloppiest elbow drop.
Yeah,
That was
things
like the one
that.
thing that always stuck out to me. I'm like, if you're gonna do a move, you gotta do it the best, you know. And that was the sloppiest elbow drop I've ever seen.
But I also like I know how hard it is to be able to work in the WWE and be a top person and just stand in the ring for 20 minutes and do like a whole model, you know, remember lines, do a whole monologue,
Yeah.
and still make it interesting and believable. He had a way of talking that kind of captivated you, which is very tough. In that respect, he was one of the best, I'd say.
Hey, I'm a fan, but that would be my only critique about CM Punk. But I am a huge fan. I still hope that we could see that guy back in the ring one day.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
What era of wrestling did you grow up in? What area did you enjoy watching?
So I was right in the heart of the Monday Night Wars was when I started watching. Mostly WCW I was a fan of.
So you were a WCW guy.
Yeah, when I was in like 5th grade maybe in elementary school, living in Brooklyn at the time, and I would be allowed to stay up like late enough to watch the end, like the last hour of Raw and Nitro.
It's usually the best part.
Yeah, so I literally would put a VHS tape in and record the last hour, and then wake up extra early before school and watch it so that I could still talk about it the next day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was a huge Benoit, Guerrero, Jericho guy, just all the good workers, really. Even when I was a little kid, like I appreciated the work rate wrestlers, like probably not even realizing it. Like I never really liked the main eventers. Like I never liked Sting or Hogan. I always thought they were boring, kind of. I want to watch the cruiserweights. The cruiserweight title was like my heavyweight title. I cared more about that.
In the position that you're in, for example, NYWC, you are the main eventer, though. You are the NYWC heavyweight champion 2 times now, and the last time we actually were there to see you get that belt back. Tell us a little bit of how you feel carrying that company as the figurehead and the champion.
Well, that's where I started. They gave me my first real chance. But pretty much from scratch, I walked into that school fresh out of first year of college, maybe, like not really knowing what to expect, but thinking since I was such a big fan of wrestling that it would come easy to me, and that like, oh, I know how to do this, not realizing like what world that I was really getting into.
What was the biggest surprise? Because a lot of people who are wrestling fans are like, oh, I could do this. What was the biggest surprise crossing over?
Well, it's not like I didn't think it'd be hard or anything. Like I knew it would be challenging. Like before I even stepped foot in the school and like I decided I wanted to do it, I started going to the gym like hardcore for like 6 months before I even thought like, okay, now I could go in there and look somewhat respectable. Like not realizing that there'd be a bunch of, you know, people like who didn't really take it seriously and never really looked like they been in the gym before in the school. But the way like I looked at it was like tough enough or something. Like it's gonna be like that. Like Triple H is gonna be standing there punching you and things like that.
Yeah.
So like I better be ready. But I'm glad I did that too at the same time. but it didn't come easy to me. I just thought that because I was a fan, I'd be able to do the moves and replicate it. It's everything you'd expect, like hitting the ropes hurt. Like I knew all that stuff from reading books and being such a fan, but the more of that the easy stuff is hard, you know, like the things that look easy are challenging at the same time. And it's just pretty much got to dedicate your whole existence to it to be somewhat successful at it, kind of thing.
So it meant a lot when you were able to then be this company's champion.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I was never the type of person or wrestler to think like, oh, I got to be on top, like I got to be the champion. Like I know that that's not everybody's role. Everybody has a different role on the card, and everybody has to do their part to make a show work.
Right.
But to actually like have some like a company put their faith in you that you could be in that position always means a lot to the wrestler. And especially coming up from the place I started, and I saw like others come before me, like who's held that title, like Tony Nese and Alex Reynolds, John Silver, Trent Beretta, Mike Mondo. Like they all held that title, and it's a prestigious belt if you look back on its history. It definitely meant a lot when they put me in that position.
When you won the title again for the second time, you celebrated with one Willow Nightingale. Give us a little bit more information on that relationship, the dynamic of dating someone who's in the business.
It's tough to explain because like I don't really look at it that way, even though we are both in the business. But it's good to have a partner on the road and everything. Like we have the same goal that we're working towards. And we moved from New York to Philly together to go train at Chikara to better ourselves and pursue that opportunity. So brought us closer together, definitely. Like it's cool to have that partner that has the same goal.
Yeah. Wrestling brought you guys together. Is there any other relationships that you're grateful that wrestling brought into your life?
The friendships I made at NYWC, I feel like are gonna last me for the rest of my life. Like no matter what happens, if I move on or like I don't live there anymore even, but whenever I go back, it's like I never left kind of thing. The promoter of NYWC, Shane, we became very close over the years.
Shane looks like he would be a good wingman, I feel like.
Yeah. Almost 10 years now we've been hanging out and causing trouble around Long Island.
Spending time with Shane, because I've seen him at shows before. He's always having a great time. And at the end of a show, he's like the friendliest guy to hang out with. Has there ever been a moment or a story you could share where you and Shane were either out drinking and maybe the drinks just got the best of you?
Oh, yeah. He's better at remembering them than me. So he'll always bring them up and kind of jog my memory. Like, oh, yeah, I do remember that. That was awesome. There's always one he likes to tell where he got a conga line going through the Applebee's kitchen, like in and out through the other way.
Really?
And I just remember the look of horror on the people in the kitchen's face as we did it. And he used to do this thing where he challenged people to punch him in the face.
Oh, God.
As hard as they could.
Oh, my
he was
God.
drinking a little too much. And I remember John Silver knocked him out.
No. Holy shit.
And then I knocked him loopy once. He was doing it in front of Tommy Dreamer that we were hanging out with, like after a show. And he kept doing it. I was like, Shane, I don't want to do it. Stop it. Just like, come on. And then I finally just like did it really hard, and he kind of dropped to the floor. And Tommy was like, oh. And then he never asked again after that. So that was like the last time he played that game, really.
You know what? Maybe he just picked different people now when he plays that game, because I do remember maybe about 8 months ago, he approached Pat from the Bullies to play that game. And Pat was like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that, Shane.
Yeah, that sounds right. Those guys are a lot of fun, too.
Oh, I love them.
Those outlaw shows that we've been doing, we've been having good times at.
Dude, that is really what wrestling is all about. Like, if I wanted to recommend any promotion to anybody to go, like, to hang out in, or someone who hasn't been a wrestling fan, but I'm going to say, hey, if you go to this show, guaranteed you're going to be a wrestling fan by the time the show is over. Outlaw Wrestling is the company that you need to go and check out. Because you guys
And
are always having such a great time in the ring and then outside of the ring.
yeah, the energy from the crowd definitely transfers to in the ring. Because I get so pumped up at those shows just because I think, like you said, it's a lot of the fans there don't walk in wrestling, or they didn't the first time. They weren't wrestling fans. They were just looking for something to do, kind of saw what something was going on in their neighborhood, like, oh, what's this? Like, and then they end up leaving wrestling fans, and they cheer for everything. They're
It
all
is
drinking, having a good time.
absolutely the fans at Outlaw are definitely part of the what makes that experience. I remember my boys last time went to the show. They met this dude at the bar who was leaving to Australia. He was just here for a week, and he was hearing them talk about wrestling and the show they were going to go to, and then jumped in the conversation. Next thing you know, he's drinking wine, drinking beers at the show, and now he's like staying up all night even though he has a flight the next morning out to Australia. I'm like, this is crazy. I love Outlaw wrestling, man.
Yeah, if anybody in that area of Brooklyn, wrestling fans, spread the word that those shows are my favorite. Like after this whole thing happened, I'm missing those shows the most. Those are the ones I'm looking the most forward to when we come back.
It was going to be one of the biggest shows WrestleMania weekend. Outlaw Wrestling was going to be putting out two shows. Was going to be putting out the show at the brewery, and then we were going to be heading out to Wild Wings for our WrestleMania watch party. It was going to be insane.
Awesome.
It was going to be insane. But unfortunately, we weren't able to get to that. But I'm sure we'll get back into the swing of things when things get back to normal or as close to normal. How are you dealing with the quarantine? What have you been up to?
I was telling you before a little bit that I'm the type of person that doesn't mind not going out as much. Like I like to stay at home. I play a lot of video games, so I've been doing a lot of that since we've been stuck inside. But the hardest part is just finding ways to stay in shape and try not to eat too much junk food, which Willow and I have been indulging a little bit with this
What are
time
those
off.
junk food snacks that are hard to deny?
I'm a big ice cream fan,
Ugh.
like mint chocolate chip ice cream. She's more of like sugar candy type of person, but I'm all about like ice cream, like cakes and cookies and things like that, chocolate. Yeah,
How do you keep up
M&Ms.
with training then?
DDP yoga is keeping us in shape for the most. It's a different type of workout, but it's very good for you, for especially wrestlers who are hurting.
Mm. Yeah,
So
a lot of people have been saying that this time it's been the first time in a long time the wrestlers, like their bodies have been able to get a break.
yeah, I feel that. I made a tweet the other day that bumping for 10 plus years and just hitting the weights like hard multiple times per week takes its toll on you. And like especially too if you've had injuries like me, I'm starting to feel refreshed, which is good. My body,
Mm.
those little aches and pains aren't there as much, and it's giving me a good little reset. If anything good comes of it, for a lot of hurting wrestlers,
Yeah.
should be able to come back refreshed, which is good.
And you wrestle for two big promotions, one NYWC, I would say like that's your home, and Chikara is your other home. You
Yeah.
mentioned moving out to Philadelphia to get closer to that promotion. How has the move been treating you?
Well, it's the first time that I have my own apartment and out of my parents' house. So that I'm very happy to be on my own. So either way, like we were kind of discussing maybe moving closer to the Wrestle Factory.
Mm-hmm.
We've been like it's been in our heads for a while. And then this opportunity where they're filming a lot through the Wrestle Factory came up for their new series, Action Arcade, which
Right.
just came out through independent TV
Yeah, every
recently.
Saturday morning on
Yes,
IWTV.
yeah. So he kind of made the offer to a bunch of the roster who were not so close, not local,
Mm-hmm.
that we were going to start filming more aggressively for that series. So for me and Willow, we were like, we've been talking about it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I think we needed the change because we've been in the New York scene, based out of the New York scene for so long. I've been training at the same place for almost 10 years at that point. I was helping Bull James, the head trainer.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of his assistant trainer for maybe like 2 years. So I was helping train all the students, which was very fun. But I also felt like I need to learn more too. And as I get older, felt like I need to make one last big push before like I'm not able to do it anymore type of thing.
Yeah.
So I figured this was the time to do it, and so far I'm happy with the decision.
Do you have an age in your mind where you're saying like, if I don't make it by this point, I think this is when I would say I'm moving on to another career?
I'm 30. I just turned 31 in December.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's getting to that point. But you do see a lot of people in their early mid 30s kind of start to get their break more and more now. And the journeymen are kind of running the WWE, like the indie journeymen.
Yeah.
So,
Define that term for someone who is listening who doesn't know pro wrestling or the lingo. What is a journeyman?
an example would be a guy like Samoa Joe, Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, guys who grinded on the indies for years and years before they finally got their break.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some people who walk in, are naturals, get their break at 22, and then there are others who grind it out for 15 years and get their break at 35. Sadly, you never know like when that break's going to come.
Yeah, and it's also a different landscape now than when you had your tryout for the WWE, because now we have
Yes.
AEW.
Yeah, that's true too.
You have some of your boys in AEW, people you've trained with in NYWC. Do you
Yeah,
see
a lot of people.
do you see that being a goal, like going into that organization versus the E?
I would love to go to AEW just because their schedule looks great. One day a week, film TV, and then that's it. It's cool seeing so many people I've worked with over there. I've wrestled like Ortiz and Santana so many times, and Janela, MJF, Johnny and Alex beat Dark Order, which is kind of weird to see them in that role.
Yeah.
Knowing them for so long, but yeah.
How so? Why is it weird to see them in that role?
I just know their real personalities, and it's nothing like a dark. It's not dark in any way, kind of thing. Like Johnny's kind of like a party guy, and Alex is kind of a clean cut. He always used to play the rich, like the MJF type of role.
Right.
When I first met him, the rich snob gimmick. So seeing them do that, it's kind of funny to me if you know them. But I'm very happy for them too. They're an example of guys who got their break late, was just stuck with it and worked hard.
And like we say it time and time again on the shows, man, like those characters, when you really invest in them, they live on forever, So even though people say kayfabe is dead, they still want to see more characters out there. Now, with you wrestle at Chikara as one name, and then you wrestle everywhere else as another name. What are the differences between those two characters?
Well, Quack always tells us he comes up with everything. It's all his writing. He takes his writing very seriously. He writes everything way far in advance. And if you don't respect the universe of Chikara, like he doesn't need you kind of thing. Like I know it sounds kind of blunt to say, but like you can't go into business for yourself there type of thing. And I kind of like that about it. I like having a set leader, like what he says goes type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of independent promotions, the problem is a lot of the times where it's the inmates running the asylum, and you got politics being played, and you got people only out for themselves, trying to get themselves over. But when you have that set leader and everything's written already, and you got to follow what's written, then it kind of keeps everything in order type of thing. But our characters at Chikara, it's me and Mike Verna. We're called the Closers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we came in as hired muscle for Hornswoggle originally. It was a dynamic of two big muscle security type thing doing dirty work for little Hornswoggle, and Hornswoggle just coming in and getting the pin after. So it was a cool dynamic originally. So it kind of evolved into just us on our own, and we would be kind of hired security for anybody who wanted our services type thing.
Right.
Usually smaller heel.
Do you think it affects any way of the branding of you as a wrestler, being that you have two names out there?
No, because I think the Chikara fans know the deal going in. They kind of, it's kind of a separate universe, and people get that.
Yeah, it's like when you go to a Chikara show, you have to immerse yourself in the
and
Chikara.
they know.
Yeah.
Like the fans are so cool, though. That's the thing, that they'll just suspend their disbelief, and
Mm-hmm.
you are like, I'm Rick rolling there. Like, even though they like, there's people who know both characters, like people who have watched like Beyond and Chikara know that, like I've wrestled as Rex Lawless,
Yeah.
even like on the same platform as Rick Roll, like independent TV. You can go watch Rex Lawless match and Rick Roll, but they'll still never mention like Rex Law, like in the crowd, like they don't like. And if someone did call me Rex, like in the crowd or something, like other fans would get on them.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't do that. He's
Totally.
cool. Yeah.
Totally.
So
The
it's cool.
Chikara universe is very protective over their world, I would say.
Yes.
So you've wrestled as a singles competitor and as a tag team specialist. Which one do you enjoy the most?
I mean, really, to be honest, whatever gets me booked. Like, if a company wants to tag team, then I have no problem being in a tag team. But it's definitely, there's differences. I find it's easier to do singles just because there's less variables involved. There's less egos involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't prefer one or the other. I like to feel like I could do whatever job is given to me.
I have to be partial to your trio partnership that you had at Outlaw Wrestling. It was you, Mike Verna, and Joe Gacy. That was a dynamic that was fun to see.
That was fun. Yeah.
Did you guys have a name for your team?
Well, at one of those brewery shows, someone in the crowd called us the Big Jack Daddies, and they got that chant going.
Yeah.
So we were just going with that for a while until we unfortunately had to kick Joe Gacy out.
Oh, no. Wrong decision, because I would love to see the Big Jack Daddies maybe one day in the King of Trios tournament.
That would be interesting.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, King of Trios, like we've kind of had some bad luck at whenever King of Trios is coming around, it seems like something always goes wrong that derails our experience, like you could say. The first year we got booked for King of Trios, we were supposed to do the trio with Hornswoggle, and last minute he got sick and he couldn't make his flight, and then we got pulled from the show. And we were supposed to wrestle the Colony with Hornswoggle. We were really looking forward to it. It was our first King of Trios. And then we got the email the day before that Hornswoggle couldn't make it, and that match was being pulled. And that was pretty rough.
You're now becoming, thanks to Chikara, a Philly guy. So you have to weigh in the question that any Phillyite, what do you call you guys over there?
I haven't been here long enough to know.
But you have to weigh in the conversation. Where do you get the best Philly cheesesteaks?
I'm asking. Willow just walked in.
I'm vegetarian.
Oh, she's a vegetarian. I knew that.
I think people go to Geno's.
Geno's and Pat's, they always say.
Sabrina's Cafe has a vegetarian Philly cheesesteak.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I always hear that the two go-tos, the Pat's and Geno's, a lot of the real people from Philly kind of look down on that because it's the touristy spots, apparently. But I've had Pat's and Geno's, and they were very good.
I'm a Pat's guy,
when
I gotta say.
We used to do Pat's.
Yeah, I'm a Pat's guy.
We used to do the CZW Dojo War shows a lot back in like 5 or so years ago at this point. But after one of those trips, we stopped over there, and I remember enjoying both of them. So
since Willow got into the conversation, I love a good wrestling love story. You mentioned that you guys both met through wrestling. What is the most romantic thing you have done in your relationship so far?
He asked what the most romantic thing I've done in our relationship. So, well, she put thumbtacks in my mouth and super kicked them out in the Psycho Circus.
That's hardcore. That brings a new definition to a ride or die chick.
Yeah. Do you remember anything I've done?
You're not a big romancer.
She says I'm not a big romancer.
But you're a very sweet human being.
Thank you.
You could argue every day is romance.
She said every day is romance. Yes.
She's putting you over. Thanks, hon. I also know you are a big music lover, and I always say music gives life to everything. Everything always has a soundtrack. So first and foremost, what kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to death metal mostly.
Okay.
not a lot of people really enjoy the type of music that, like, the mainstream doesn't really enjoy the type of music I like, but that's what I grew up on. I grew up on like Kill Switch Engage, like, they were getting popular, Lamb of God, Unearthed, Shadows Fall. Like, that era of metal was what kind of got me into music, and I picked up playing the bass, and I would play local shows
No
in Long
way.
Island when I was like 18, yeah. Even a little younger, like 17, 18.
Do you see any similarities between being a musician and being a wrestler?
The corniness of the promoters is kind of similar with music and wrestling, yeah. They used to make you sell tickets, I remember. They used to,
Really? Okay.
like, you'd have to take a bunch of tickets and sell them, and if you didn't come up with the money for all the tickets they gave you, they wouldn't let you play. So sometimes, like, if you couldn't, like, say if they gave you 10 and you only sold 8, we'd have to take the money out of our pockets, like, oh no, we have to make up these last 2.
Wow. What were the name of the bands you were in?
My band name, we had a weird name. It was Gleebles.
Gleebles? Did it stand for anything? Did it mean anything?
Well, we used to, when I was younger, like senior year of high school-ish, me and my friends used to just, like, walk around the neighborhood a lot and, like, hang out outside of Dunkin' Donuts. And there was a homeless guy who would always just come up to us and, like, yell gibberish at us. And, like, one time he asked us, like, we told him we were in a band. And he was like, "You guys are in a band? You guys are the Gleebles." And then he drew, and then he drew a picture of us, like a weird, like, stick figure picture, and it said Gleebles on it. He's like, "Here," and he just gave it to us.
Oh,
and then from then
man.
on, we called ourselves Gleebles.
Dude, that would have been the album cover.
Yeah. We made a demo at one point. Like, one of the guitar players in my band was pretty good with Pro Tools and recording, so we ended up recording our own demo, like, all by ourselves, like, mic'd everything up and mixed it and mastered it ourselves, and it came out pretty good.
Well, let's play a game. I'm going to name an activity, and you name a song that you would listen to while doing this activity.
I'm not good with songs, really, but I'll try.
Let's try it out. Working out.
Working out. The thing is, like, I usually, when I'm working out, I put my Spotify on random. Really, it's all heavy. I can't listen to any soft music when I'm working out. It has to be heavy screaming, all that kind of stuff.
How about tailgating?
Tailgating, I would probably go with, like, Iron Maiden or something like that. Or, like, more upbeat, some 80s metal.
How about cooking?
The thing is, like, I never really not listen to metal, like, no matter what situation I'm in. Whenever I want to just relax, like, I put on people screaming in my ear. Like, it's weird, but that's what I listen to in every situation.
All right, maybe this would be different. Sex.
What would we listen to for sex?
Metal.
No, I see, that wouldn't be metal. I probably let the other person choose in that situation. Because I'd leave it up to them, because I know they wouldn't like what I put on.
If it were up to you, what would you put on?
Maybe some of the softer Faith No More songs, like some of the weird ones.
Okay.
that aren't as fast or anything.
Going on a road trip.
Road trip, I like comedy stuff.
Oh yeah, what do you listen to?
Me and Shane, whenever we were in the car together, would always have our go-to, like, playlist. Like, we'd put on, like, emo, or ironically, and just laugh at it, kind of thing. Like, Shane's very good with just, like, he knows pretty much every genre. So whenever we were together, we'd always just crack ourselves up and, like, put on funny songs. Smell Your Dick was one of our favorite ones from that Tosh.0 show.
Yeah. And finally, how about playing video games?
Music while playing video games?
Yeah, do you listen to music while playing video games?
Not really. I just like the soundtrack, but now that I test video games, like, as my job.
You mentioned that to me offline. Yeah. What is that about? That sounds like the coolest job to ever have outside of being a wrestler.
Yeah, I kind of just fell into it. I saw on Facebook that someone was looking for a game tester for their company. And since, like, we moved to Philly without really having a regular job, so we were both looking, and it kind of worked. Like Willow saw it. I was kind of like, oh, look at this. You could probably do this. And we knew the guy because he went to shows around here. And so we kind of Facebook messaged him. He's like, yeah, put an application in. Like, since this whole thing happened, we have to work from home. So I was just like sitting around on my laptop, playing.
What kind of video games do you test?
They're old school, like side-scrolling platform games, but they're really hard.
And what kind of video games do you like to play?
I like RPGs mostly. Like, I was always really into the Final Fantasy games growing up, and like Metal Gear Solid, like just games with good storylines, action. Like, I never really liked like first-person shooters or anything like that. Grand Theft Auto, I loved.
Yeah, that's a good one there. Man, thank you so much for joining us on this episode, I have to say, first and foremost. This is a shot of wrestling, so I have to ask for you to share a story where alcohol made you make a poor decision.
There's many of those. Oh, Willow just reminded me of one.
What?
She said we were drinking at the NYWC school for whatever reason, like after train. After a show. Well, I was just like running around the locker room. I was yelling. I was like, "We're going to kill MGK!" And I took a staple gun and stapled myself in the head.
Oh my god!
I just found like lying around, and I started like bleeding, like trickling blood out. I was just like all pumped up for no reason, yelling. I was like, "Ah!"
How hard was it to get the staple out?
It came right out.
Oh, okay.
I just remember Willow was very disappointed in my behavior. But yeah, there's many like little just bad decisions I made over the years. More stupid than anything else.
Bro, but they're part of the story of your life, which one day could become a movie.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, just want to thank you so much for always supporting us, being friendly and open to talk to us at events. You're super, super cool inside and outside of the ring. I mean, the last time we saw each other, we were hanging out. It was a Royal Rumble watch party. You and actually Willow were celebrity contestants at the Boulevard Bullies drinking game. That's how cool you guys are. You're always willing just to hang out and have a good time, man. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Just if anything else, if I'm gonna be bumping around, driving to be cramped in cars hours at a time, I'm at least gonna try to have some fun while I'm doing it.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So if people, I know it's quarantine time, there's not much wrestling going on, but if anybody wanted to follow to see what you've been up to, where could they do that on your social media handles?
You can follow me on Twitter at RexLawless1 is the handle, Facebook.com/RexLawless, Instagram, just RexLawless, and I have a pro wrestling page store too. If you want to just search, I have like a few designs up on there. Type my name and it should come up.
Hell yeah. Everybody go out there, support all your independent wrestlers during this time, and we hope that it won't be too much longer before we get to see you guys back in the ring. Thank you, Rex Lawless, for joining us on this episode of Shot of Wrestling, but hang around, there's still last call.
All right. Thanks for having me. Hey guys, this is Rex Lawless. Thank you for listening to my interview with the Shot of Wrestling podcast, but we're not done yet. Stay tuned for last call.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. All right, everybody, you have made it to the end of the episode, and it's last call. We're still here with Rex Lawless. Now, Rex, pretty simple. I ask you a question, and the first thing that comes out of your mind is the first thing you should answer. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Well, then away we go. What is your favorite adult beverage?
I will say vodka, but whiskey is a close second.
If you were to share a drink with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Mike Patton from Faith No More, I'd say. He seems like a fun guy to drink with.
Hell yeah. What is your spirit animal?
Well, my cat's sitting right here, so I'll say a cat.
Okay. Don't want to make him feel bad.
Yeah.
What fictional character would you like to wrestle?
I'd say like from the Final Fantasy video games, maybe one of those monsters, a boss from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Other than wrestling, what is your favorite sport?
hockey by far is my favorite sport.
What's your favorite team?
I'm a huge Ranger fan.
Oh, cool.
I'm missing the season right now because
Yeah.
they were making a run for the playoffs, and it got cut off, sadly, by this whole thing.
If you could play one video game for the rest of your life, what game would it be?
I'm highly addicted to the NHL video game, so if I had to choose one, that could keep me entertained.
What's your favorite karaoke song?
Oh, I hate karaoke. my girlfriend Willow loves karaoke, so
What's her favorite song?
maybe Whitney Houston, Dance with Somebody or something like that.
Okay.
Like one of those go-tos.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Willow Nightingale, of course.
What actor would play you in a movie about your life?
Everybody always says I look like Adam Sandler a little bit. Like if I didn't have the beard when I was younger, I would get that a lot. So yeah, let Adam Sandler grow his hair out, the beard off.
Would the story of your life be a comedy?
I think so. I try to find the humor in most things. So even my failures and things like that, I can find humor in.
Gotcha. And finally, what is the first thing you would do if you were quarantined for 1 full year?
I mean, probably wrestle if we're not allowed to wrestle. I'm starting to miss it. In the beginning, it was kind of like, oh, you know what? My body hurt pretty bad, and I haven't just chilled for a while, but now I'm starting to miss it. So being in a wrestling ring again.
Well, I hope by the next time that I hear your voice, it will be at a wrestling show somewhere near us. Rex, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Shot of Wrestling.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Hey baby, I hear the bell ringing, hip tosses and body slams. Oh my. And maybe you seem a bit confused, yeah baby, but I got you pinned. Ha 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 ha. But I don't know what to do when I see them with that golden case. They're cashing it in. Authority all in my face. What is a man to do? Good night, everybody.